What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers That Filters podcast, the final episode. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I'm drinking some Bauhaus Short Pants. Classic summer brew. I might have had this last time. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but it's a tasty beer that I like quite a bit.
Nice. I'm Joseph, and I've got Founders All Day IPA, baby.
Classic.
Nice. I'm Gabe, and I'm doing the classic Oberon.
Oh, yeah.
Damn you, Gabe.
Yeah.
Damn you.
A friend of the podcast heard it was the last episode and gifted this to me. Just because she knew how much I liked it during the podcast in the summer. So
Yep.
shout outs.
Thoughtful.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Dayton, and I
What are you
am also drinking an Oberon. Mine's from a peasant can, though.
Oh yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're nothing if not consistent.
It's the same 12-pack that I've been drinking from for like the past few episodes.
That's awesome.
Hey, I get that. I've not been drinking that much either. Except for we went to Vegas Lounge this weekend, and me and Joseph knocked down some PBRs. It was a good time.
Nice.
There you go.
But yeah, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. If you're listening to this, then I'm sure you know this is the final episode. I apologize for coming out of the blue with this, not really announcing it too far ahead of time. Just kind of the way things shook out. I guess just to jump into the explanation here. If you want to be mad at somebody, you can be mad at me. All right, I'm the person who brought this forward. Kind of a lot of factors are going into this. Mainly, it's just things are getting really hectic with scheduling right now. Especially for me, but also for the other guys too, with summer and all that. And that combined with, we've done a pretty good job of keeping the podcast going, maybe doing a monthly episode or going hiatus in the past, but it's become kind of more difficult to produce the show as we keep doing it, just with our lives getting busier and still trying to come up with stuff every week that we want to talk about and is interesting for you guys. And all that kind of combined with, I'm trying to go into a new phase of my life, my career right now, getting into video production and stuff like that. And, a lot of that field is kind of what you produce and how good was your last thing kind of a thing. Not to say that this podcast is horrible by any means, but, from me looking at a production standpoint, it's not as good as it could be. And as much as I'd want to put in the time to make it as good as it could be, I don't think any of us have the time for that, unfortunately. And, I think, at least for me, the most important thing is just maintaining friendships with everyone here and keeping up with each other. And, the podcast on top of that is kind of extra, just time that I'm losing. So yeah, that's where I kind of came in, and then we discussed it and decided to kind of end the podcast at this time. And I apologize to our faithful small group of listeners out there. We appreciate you guys a lot. I know a lot of people who listen are friends of ours in real life. And, we always appreciate hearing from you guys, stuff like that. But from now on, you'll have to text us if you want to see what we're up to, or we can call you. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. If anyone else was chime in and how they feel about things, or any thoughts on the podcast ending.
Not really. I mean, I think, like you kind of were saying, the scheduling is probably like the weird thing, like constantly having to. It's becoming that very adult situation where it's like, when can you hang out? 3 Fridays from now. Oh, I'm busy that day. So it gets tricky just with us all doing different stuff. So
yeah,
bit of a bummer, but
all good things must come to an end. And yeah, if you're somehow listening to this as a newer listener, we have 175 episodes you can go back and listen to. And I'm sure I was looking back some of today, trying to scan for some favorite moments, and totally forgot about some episodes we did. One in particular was we had a middle school cringe episode, like episode 60 something. And I'm like, we did middle school cringe again, like a few weeks ago. We just totally forgot about it. And I wonder if we repeated anything. I'll have to go back and check. But
that's funny.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. I looked at our first episode aired in October of 2018. So we almost made it 5 years, which is pretty nuts, honestly. And, very impressive, I think, for us to go for that long.
Yeah, certainly lasted longer than I was expecting. I thought when the three of us graduated in 2019, excuse me, and then Gabe later in 2019, I was like, that's just gonna be too difficult. We recorded in the same room, one mic, and like trying to make it work over video. I was like, this is gonna be more taxing than like walking one flight of stairs and being like, hey, you ready to go?
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised that it continued, especially with 2020 as what it became.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing the Discord recording even before COVID. I mean, some say pioneered the medium.
I'm sure we were the first.
People look to us for guidance.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it's been a long ride. But yeah, I'm very proud of us for going this long. Just some very quick things that I would pull up today. I thought was interesting. Do you have any guesses for our most viewed episode on YouTube specifically?
It's gotta be the COVID one.
I think it
Gabe
was
says
yeah,
COVID.
I think it's the first COVID one. Well, I think that one
Because I think
really well
people
for some-
wanted information on COVID and we were just bitching about it. I think because it was like tagged as like COVID and then it had engineers in the title. So we were like, I need to learn some shit. But we were just like, this sucks. I want to go outside.
Just whining. Joseph, you have a guess?
I want to say, well, I would guess it'd be one of the We Got Drunk. But did we do video with? I get maybe one of the later ones, like
We did the
4?
seltzer one, which was kind of
Oh,
one
the
of them.
seltzer ranking. I forgot about that.
That was a good one.
The correct answer was our episode on reality dating shows,
Oh,
which was kind of
Really?
surprising. I think that's our only episode over 100 views.
That's crazy.
But I looked at it. It must have jumped up some point. I don't know, in the last year or so because I haven't been looking at it. But I mean,
That
I
was a
get it.
fun
Dating
one.
shows are pretty popular and people always looking for
Well, we
people
had
that are talking
some
about
some
them.
niche ones on that bucket. And we're talking about some of those from like the early 2000s. That was a
Mhm.
good one.
Yeah, because Nikki Jakey's video kind of went over a lot of the older ones, and that was kind of the impetus for talking
Oh,
about it.
right.
But yeah, that was a good one. And I also grabbed the top 3 downloaded podcast episodes. So I'll give you the first 2 because number 1 is episode 1, number 2 is episode 2. I figure just from people starting out. What do you think the third most downloaded episode is? It is not the same as YouTube. No, we have not said it yet in our discussion here.
Wasn't it was it the breakups episode?
Joseph's
Oh
breakups.
yeah, it's got to be something with
I remember
like
that one being-
relationships. Any other time we talk about relationships, the numbers just like weirdly bumped. I'm just saying, you guys are awfully interested.
Hayden, you have a guess?
Mm, I mean, I was gonna say the seltzer episode. I thought that one did well.
So it's another surprising one. In this episode, it's 155. And when it came out, it also did well on YouTube. It's the Disturbing Intrusive Thoughts episode.
Oh,
I think it's a very relatable title that maybe people don't talk about a lot. I'm not sure why, but that episode did very well. I think was interesting. But
What's
yeah, so
very
guys-
well for us? Like 25 people?
yeah, YouTube, if it's over 30, that's good.
Yeah.
Downloads, yeah, also like 50-ish would be good. And this is kind of a sad stat. Not really, but like our total downloads was like less than 10,000, which is like pretty good. But then if you think about how many episodes or how many downloads per episode you need to get ads,
It's from like the long tail of just like people
Yeah,
watching
exactly.
slowly over time.
yeah,
So,
if you
like,
wanted to run ads in your podcast, you need like 10,000 like per episode, and it's like, oh man, we didn't even hit that like total. But hey, we had a good time, no regrets.
I'm guessing. Oh, we probably don't even have that data for the earlier episode.
Yeah, we are missing some data. We are missing some data from because we switched.
Oh, we swapped our
Providers, yeah.
RSS feeds. Yeah.
But did you look at our least downloaded episode?
Well, we're missing data for some of
I
the
say
stuff, but
minus those first. What was it 40 or so?
Let me see if I can look really
It was
fast.
like the
I can pull it
first
up.
35 or 40 or something. Yeah.
All-time least downloaded looks like, and so these are first 30, so it might be incorrect. Winter Carnival, episode 19,
That's kind of niche.
and the future of streaming, episode 25. The first one is over 30. Yeah, these are all bullshit bracket round 1 pasta pandemonium. Interesting.
Really.
And then
People
both
didn't like the
round two.
pasta one. That was a good one.
They didn't like Pasta Pandemonium or Board Game Bedlam.
Ridiculous.
That's
Well,
such
they
good
were
names
wrong.
for those.
Maybe it was just more fun to record than it was to listen to.
Maybe. I mean,
Probably.
it is kind of a not super easy to explain premise.
Yeah.
But hey, we had a good time with it. And I think that kind of leads into what are some favorite moments? What are things that you look back on and you're like, oh, that was a really fun time? I can start off because I wrote down some. I'm pretty sure it was episode 1. And looking back on it, I just laugh at it every time. Is Dayton's Improv Corner.
Oh
Whatever the fuck
god,
we called it.
Don't
Where
even bring that
Story
up.
time or something.
we gave Dayton like Mad Libs and he had to improv a story, and I thought it was going to be hilarious, and it just did not go that well.
It flopped hard. Everybody has to fail every now and again.
Well, and I don't even blame you. I think it was just me being like, I want to be a podcast host. We gotta have segments. What would be fun? Oh yeah, Dayton bullshitting. That'll be great. And it was just like, we're never doing that again.
One and done.
That's one of my favorites.
Oh man, it's hard for me to like pick up a specific one, but I do like all like the absolutely silly ones that we've done for sure. Like
A lot.
I remember
There's so
really
many.
enjoying when we did the BuzzFeed quizzes for a while, and then Gabe, was it your dad that was like, "Those are really dumb. Why do you do that?" And then we're just like, "All right, it's not fun anymore. We're done."
Oh yeah, there was that one part, this era of
Yeah.
the show, where we started every episode with a BuzzFeed quiz.
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
That
we had a
was-
quiz and survey era where we did like the Enneagram.
That was before we
the
swapped to the
personality
catch
stuff.
tip. Yeah, we did the
BuzzFeed.
personality ones a million times.
What was the other one? I can't remember. It had a weird name, but yeah, we did a lot of those kind of surveys.
Did we do the Dark Triad? Was that one we did?
We did at one point.
I liked how many kids could we fight. I think that was a good episode.
That's when I
I want
was
to
gone
say,
for.
I think you were gone for that one, but
Yeah.
like that topic is so stupid.
it's a great topic.
But it's a great premise. I remember that
It
was
was like
really
Jacob's
fun.
gone, so we can do some crazy shit. How many
Yeah.
kids can we fight?
You would have enjoyed that conversation, I think.
Dayton, do you have what's one of your favorite moments?
Yeah, I mean, I always really enjoyed the bullshit brackets. I think I enjoyed the production of it more than the actual competing.
Participating, yeah.
Even though I would say I did put a lot of time into the making the rhymes and everything. But I definitely put way more time into the production, creating everything for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are always a highlight. I really liked the super fight when we did our last one. And it was a nice kind of update to the format and looked pretty clean and that was a good time. Another classic ice skating conspiracy.
That
Oh,
one
yeah.
was fun.
Will always be one of my all-time favorite episodes because I just was losing my mind doing a Charlie Day-esque rant, talking about Purple Girl and Beard Boy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh
Great time.
man.
There's another one. I was scrolling through the episodes like 5 minutes ago, right? And I forgot how early the soup salad sandwich one
Yes,
was. That's
I
like
also picked that
around
one.
episode 50 or something.
That feels like yesterday.
And Alyssa still brings that up.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while we'll talk about it and like she mentioned like she mentioned it to her family and I think they listened to that episode. And so sometimes when I go visit them, they'll like ask me questions. I was like, man, it was so long ago. I don't remember what I said or why I said what I said then.
I
Yeah.
still stand by if there's no utensils, it's a sandwich. If it's a fork, it's a salad. If it's a spoon, it's a soup.
Yeah. It's
The last episode,
Lock
you're
in.
like, I gotta, I gotta reiterate.
I'm right, and I'm not taking no for an answer.
and,
Okay.
and I agree with you there, Jacob. I think
Yeah,
it's
you and
the
I were on the same team.
most concise.
I don't even remember what team I was on.
You were against us. I think
Yeah,
it
you
was
two
you
were-
two against me.
I think
and Joseph.
Dayton and I remember roughly that part, but I do also enjoy like I won't even call it like parasocial relationship, but like just like having friends who I don't talk to a whole lot who just or haven't seen in person in a while. It is like it's a weird side of of a relationship because they get updates, especially when we started doing the update era of the podcast. People would come like text me for the first time in a while or like catch up, and I'd say I don't. She's like, "Oh yeah, I already know. Like I listen to the podcast." Yeah, I find that was always really fun to be able to do that. And then I don't know.
Yeah, that's nice.
Cool. It was always surprising to me to hear from like people that I wouldn't expect to listen to it tell me that like
sure.
you know like they're an avid listener. I don't know. I feel like it always took me by surprise, right? Like we have like our college friends, and like I figure that's probably majority of the people who are listening.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some family here. I know that my parents sometimes listen.
Shout out to Jan and Ralph. Yeah, and it's surprising because like an hour a week isn't that long, but also I feel like it is kind of a big commitment. Like maybe just speaking for myself, like I have so many podcasts and music I'm trying to listen to, and so little time to do it. Like if I had to throw in another hour for like my friend who has a podcast, like it might be hard to fit that in every single week. So the people that do it was really nice of them.
Carve out the space.
Well, and two, there was that time where we were doing game stream Mondays, podcast Thursdays.
Mhm.
That's 2 nights out of the week that I'm more or less locked in.
Yeah.
And it's a big time thing,
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have very many evenings.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like that was mostly during COVID, which was kind of nice for sanity's
Yeah.
sake. But it still was a lot. So
Mm-hmm. Another fave is just talking about the trip when Dayton almost killed me in the White Mountains. I'll never forget that. It was a good time, but also I wanted to die.
Type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun, exactly. And then in that same era, the Seltzer ranking was super fun, just kind of playing that out and just recording all that and
Seltzer
getting
episode was
more
really
drunk
good.
as we did it.
The Seltzer episode was great.
I totally forgot that I made like Pokemon cards for the Seltzers.
Oh yeah,
For each one, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Showing their stats and shit. And then Gabe, this is a classic from you, but the Grasshopper Society. Probably our
love
most
that one.
insane episode. It's just so fucking stupid, but it's
Shout out to
so
my old
funny.
work friends. That was such a perfect topic.
If your listener who doesn't remember, the topic was if humans had grasshopper legs, what would society look like?
They could jump proportionally, like grasshoppers can jump pretty high for their size if humans could do the same. I feel like there would be some infrastructure changes. That was so fun. That was a great episode.
And the last one I wrote down was the best Christmas songs of all time. There were some hot takes in that episode.
That one got pretty combative.
Yeah, and people yelled at me after that episode came out for sure.
You probably deserved it.
Yeah,
was it you that was shitting on was it the Genesis or Peter Gabriel Christmas song? I forget what that was. Someone was very against a very popular Christmas song.
Paul McCartney one?
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Fuck that song.
Yeah, I'm also pretty against it.
I like it.
Not good.
I like it.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's musically shitty.
Our number one was Last Christmas, right?
By Wham?
Chris? Yeah, by Wham.
Yeah, dude, I love
think
that
that's the number
song.
one.
I love that song.
I'm gonna pull it up really fast actually, because there was some very, very hot takes on that. Here we go. Yeah, Last Christmas our number one. And then Trans-Siberian Orchestra was number 2 for Christmas Eve. Yeah, okay. Paul McCartney, Wonderful Christmas was number 3. It's too high.
I agree.
Yeah, so if you're listening, want to see this playlist, it is linked somewhere. If you go to the episode, go to the description. It's linked. It's still up. And you can see our top 29, for some reason, Christmas songs ranked.
Maybe one got removed from Spotify or something?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh man, I forgot about our STEM topics era too.
Yep, STEM topics era. It was every 5th episode, I think.
Something like that.
We did this. We're like, we need to be more engineering.
Try to put the engineers in.
And then it became each of us scrolling Reddit, just trying to find
futurology.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the top upvoted post this week? Let me throw that up there. We had Max on one time to explain how a computer works.
Oh yeah,
which is a bit
I
heavy.
think the little man computer.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what we talked about?
Yeah,
that was fun.
What other moments do you guys want to do you remember fondly?
I remember the spring break recap that we did was a lot of fun just because we all sat around the whole house or house at the time, say, and talked about, just the week that we had, and I really enjoyed.
We did it with the Winter Carnival and just kind of recapping our shenanigans.
For sure. Definitely self-indulgent, but fun
Yeah.
nonetheless. Especially to go back on, like, again, in a self-indulgent way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll go back and watch it all and like, oh yeah, that happened. That's fucking crazy.
I mean, we were saying that in early days of the podcast, like this would be a great time capsule to go back and look at in like 30 years or whatever and be like, oh yeah, what were we doing in college?
Yeah, we could probably recreate all of our voices with AI at this point. We have like probably the equivalent of like 200 hours worth of single track audio.
Yeah.
Dude, let's just we're not ending the podcast. We're gonna have an AI do the podcast.
Every Monday, new completely random.
It'll pick a topic and it'll talk for roughly an hour. And then it'll just do random recaps.
every week it's like drinking an Oberon.
Yeah.
Last week I was in cyberspace.
Anything else? Any other stuff? Any other episodes?
I think I mentioned this like when we did like other recaps, but I've really liked that we did the year company. I think that's been I know I was never the best at getting it done on time. But I really enjoyed the like process of it.
Yeah, shout out to Dayton for bringing that to our attention.
The first time I think he showed me, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Dayton is stupid. But I really grew to like it, and I think it's something that I will continue to do for sure.
Yeah, same.
I'm not the best at exactly checking in, but it is interesting. Even some of the ones that we did from last, or I guess this year, it's crazy to see like where my goals are at then and if they're different now. Like, just cool to see that stuff. Again, kind of back in the time capsule thing, but cool to get some stuff on paper.
Yeah, it's a lot more actionable and feels better than New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, and I feel like I've crossed off more things because it's been like a thing, and like it's, even though like we were just saying, it's not like we have 10,000 listeners a month. It's one, like when you say you're gonna do something in front of like more or less at least 20 of your friends on average, it's like, fuck, now I got to do it.
Accountability.
So I'll have to find another way to motivate it. Maybe I'll just share it on social media or something.
Yeah. Hold me accountable, please.
Yeah, please.
Any more for you, Dayton? As he takes a massive sip of his beer.
No, I mean, I had kind of forgotten, well, not really forgotten that we do the year compass ones, but I think because that's just something that I had done before this, I hadn't really associated the podcast much with the compass.
How many years were you doing it? Like, when did you start? Do you remember?
I don't. I mean, I think it was probably like 2 years before we started doing the podcast.
Okay, so in college.
Yeah, definitely in college.
I feel like I remember you telling me it when we lived together in the dorm. I remember you mentioned
that would make sense because I remember
either, so maybe it was invented around that time.
Yeah, I remember that the first time I did it, I literally stayed up like over Christmas break, sitting in like my childhood bedroom on my laptop until like 2 a.m. filling it out.
Nice.
Like find it on Reddit or something.
I must have. I don't know where else I would have found it.
How would you find that? Yeah.
Because I never heard anything about it until you brought it up. But
because I think they did like an AMA on Reddit, or I think they do a yearly AMA.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's about right.
So another thing that I think Dayton or someone else recommended we talk about is kind of been about 5 years since we started this, and it's been a long time. So I wanted to kind of talk about what skills have we acquired from doing the podcast, and how have we changed as people in the last 5 years, or maybe because of the podcast. You never know. So I can start off with like audio editing. I think is a massive one. Me and Dayton did mostly audio editing over the course of the time, but I had to do some episodes, and that was very helpful in just learning more about audio, and it's helpful in what I'm trying to go into now for sure. So it's definitely super complicated, and there's still a lot to learn. I still barely know how to compressor works, but definitely I feel a lot more confident now than I would have if we had never done this.
It compresses.
Does it?
I don't know.
It's-
I do the audio stuff.
They're very. It's very confusing.
The black box. Don't worry
Yeah, I
about
mean-
it.
Yeah, I mean, so my like primary, I guess, responsibility that like as a direct skill is just more of getting it up onto the internet, which for the most part was like set it and forget it. So I don't know if it is a skill so much, but like I have a better understanding of that type of stuff. And every now and then we'd have some issues and have to, talk to Apple or whoever it was that would drop our podcast randomly. So yeah, I'd say like that was like the big hard skill. I guess if I needed to start another podcast and only talk about dating shows because that's the only thing that's selling right now, I could do that.
It will
part,
be
so.
soon with the strike. It's gonna be all reality shows.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think the other thing too might be like this. This might sound bad in retrospect, but like sometimes you like have nothing to talk about, and you gotta like find something. You have to find some meat or some context, and just kind of have a better way to like I don't know, flow a conversation. I think that's been a little helpful in just like professional settings, like through work and stuff, having some people who may not be as receptive to conversation to be able to keep her moving, like the mindset maybe. But
Yeah, I'll second that one right away because I definitely noticed that I wasn't conscious of it for a while, but I remember when I was in grad school, I was at a party with some other grad students, and grad students, not to stereotype, but they can be a little bit, awkward, not always easy people to talk to. We were just all kind of sitting in a group, and I found myself like hosting the discussion at one point. Like, oh yeah, and you said this, and then oh yeah, what were you talking about? And like, yeah, oh yeah, we talked about this earlier. Like, just kind of keeping discussion flowing. And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely learned this from hosting a podcast for fucking 4 years. So that still kind of required without me really realizing it, which is cool.
I think maybe even I've gotten more okay with like being silly with like some of my thoughts. Like the filter maybe has gotten a little looser because it makes great content. But I do think like maybe I'm more comfortable sharing like silly thoughts that do pop up.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, some peripheral ones. Just because I think maybe the podcast has encouraged it over years. But
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if that's a skill.
I mean, it's not a skill. I really like that I've been able to, not that I put or like develop the skill that much, but just being able to like do Photoshop and like just work on that. Because that was something I did a little bit in high school. I like learned the basics of but it's the same shit. And being able to just kind of do a little something else with that, and like, oh yeah, I remember using these tools once 6 years ago. Like, it was kind of fun to be able to do that again and kind of relearn all of that and make them as terrible as I could. And sometimes they turned out a lot better than I could have ever expected. Particularly the Matchbox 20 cover that I did for one episode. I somehow all of our necks matched their necks perfectly, and so it's like you can hardly tell that they're Photoshopped.
Now it's relevant. Now it's relevant again, Joseph.
It is.
If you haven't seen the Barbie movie, go see it.
I have not changed my Photoshop version since high school, so it's still like the 2013 or 2014. It's 10 years old at this point, but I still use it because I know where all the buttons are. So I don't think I've learned any new skills, but I've maintained those.
If it ain't broke, there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure the newer version is much better and more powerful, but
It has
but
the
now it's a
generative.
subscription and
It has the generative.
the generative
AI.
fill, yeah, that looks pretty neat.
I mean, I learned a lot on the podcast. I mean, I learned a lot about audio editing, stumbling my way through that blindly, completely. Kind of troubleshooting until it somewhat sounded good. Doing a lot of research on that. Learned more about acoustics as well. Kind of had to when in my last apartment, because of the setup was not ideal for recording a podcast, considering that it was tile floor and there was nothing on the walls. It was incredibly echoey and reverby. So learned about acoustics a little bit in that. Learned more about soundproofing and making like anechoic. How people think that panels like you see behind me soundproof things, but they do not. Can't soundproof with those. Not possible. You need a dense material to block those sound waves. Yeah, I learned. I mean, more with Photoshop, different Photoshop, mainly, making things, nice and even, and doing like the layouts and everything for streaming.
get some animation too.
Yeah, learned how to animate. Learned how to stream. It's straightforward now, but I mean, when I first started, I was like, I have no clue how to do this.
It's scary when you first start. So many settings, and you're just like, what the fuck? And what's bit rate? And is this
Yeah.
actually gonna work? Yeah.
Does it look like I know what a bit rate is?
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I've learned a lot of different. I don't know if you want to call them skills or my software and everything that in all reality don't really have any. I'll say like inherent worth other than just like the joy of learning them. Because I know like during like the bullshit bracket, I would wake up on my Saturday mornings, drink my energy drink, and then get to work for a few hours and animate or work in Photoshop or just like workshopping designs and whatnot.
Yeah, it was good to have that excuse to these things to try things out.
Mhm.
Because I had to learn a lot of the same skills as Dayton, and especially with like our overlays and stuff. So many post-it notes where you're like measuring pixels and like, how do I make sure like all this is like lined up properly and like spaced out well, and yeah, streaming obviously the same with Dayton, had to learn that, and same even just like posting a video to YouTube. It's like, okay, I know anybody can do it, it's easy, but I've never actually done it before, so what's the process? And do I have to have tags, and do I do in a playlist, and like just none of that stuff is too hard, but it was good to have an excuse to do it. And I mean, for me personally, it was very valuable because that's what I'm trying to go into. But it was nice to like bounce ideas off of Dayton. We were both kind of working on stuff and kind of get to a better spot with it. So yeah, learned a lot of great tech stuff as well as discussion stuff. Yes, but
I think another one is
Yeah,
that I was more cognizant of my like where my mind wandered, because you like before this, like my mind would wander and like it would like be in one ear out the other. Wouldn't even think about like the wacky things that I'm thinking. And when we started like, all right, we need some more ideas, I'm like, all right, I'll start writing some of these down, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. My note app has been used a lot more in the last 5 years than any other time. Maybe that's just because, I mean, part of that time was college, but if I had a weird idea like grasshoppers, I let her rip, I had a test audience in that case, but I'll usually
I was
write it
living
down.
with you saying, save for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That actually reminded me, because if I remember right, when we started, you guys had never really listened to podcasts before.
No, I listened to
So-
podcasts.
You did before we started?
I
I've
used to
listened to
listen.
the big ones.
Here and there.
I listen to them more than I do now.
Oh, really? Okay. I remember the opposite. So yeah, I guess we'll go to you, Joseph, then. Did doing this like encourage you to listen to other podcasts? And then once you did you like think back on ours and think about like how they compared?
Not really. A lot of the podcasts, I mean, I remember you encouraging me to listen to podcasts, particularly like when I was driving back and forth
Mhm.
between school and home. Um, just because it eats up the drive a lot better sometimes than music does. And so like, and I remember Dayton and I on the drives, we'd listen to like Hardcore History,
Mm.
uh, the Dan Carlin
Yep.
podcast. And that's a very different format than this, because he knows what he's talking about. Um, and like it's written and like very, you know, they're also like 4-hour episodes and like 6 parts or whatever. Those were kind of where I started, and even now, I I don't I did for a while, but I don't really listen to like discussion podcasts like this. It's a lot more like either investigative,
Mhm.
or like right now I've been listening to a D&D podcast for a while. Um, and so like that's more similar to this, but also very different. So not really, I would say.
Gabe, did your relationship with podcasts change at all over the course of the last 5 years?
I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I don't really listen to a lot of discussion type ones. I like a group of 4 guys bullshitting. Even though the people who are listening appreciate you. I listen to a lot more of the investigative stuff, and it is mostly exclusively through drives. Like I had a couple long drives recently, and podcasts definitely got more use in that way. But I do really like the limited series of all that, and I think I can respect more of like I guess the quality of him because a lot of those are like typed out, written, and then they have a team of like 10 people and make it perfect. There's fade in, fade out music and like stuff to add to like you know, if they're describing a scene, they'll add different stuff and all that stuff. Like you notice, I mean, not that you don't notice that, if you don't have your own podcast, but I think it was just more of like, wow, that's really cool that they did that.
Yeah, it's very
But
highly produced.
we don't have 10 fucking people behind us to, to be able to do that. But it's still, cool that we're still on the same platforms and the accessibility of it, is still nice that, we still got a chance to do it. But
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I used to listen to like TED, a lot of TED Talks and TED Radio Hour. A lot of like the podcasts like published through NPR. And I mean, now when I listen to podcasts, it's usually still the same. I listen to a few, actually just one running podcast, I think, if the episode is, if I deem it worthy, for a listen. But I don't know. The big change for me is like I used to podcasts a lot when I worked, but with the work that I'm doing now, I can't listen to podcasts. And my commute is also either so short that I can't even get through a single song. So it's not even worth having a podcast on, or I just bike in. I'm not gonna put headphones in. 7-minute bike ride.
Sure. Yeah, for me, I mean, I was really into this style of podcast before we started. That's kind of why I wanted to do it because, I listened to it and be like, oh, well, I could do that. We could do that.
I can do that. That's not that hard.
And we could, and we did, right? But I think, one of the main differences is that like the ones I listened to were everyone who was on it was like an established internet personality beforehand. So people were listening to it were people that knew them from somewhere else. And I guess we kind of mirrored that with the people who listen to us are people who know us from real life or, and that's where you get most of your audience. We get, you get some growth, some strangers and stuff, but yeah, I'm glad that we did it. And, I had a ton of fun over the last 5 years producing this and making it and being like, yeah, we can do the podcast genre that I've liked for a very long time. So that was very satisfying. But yeah, then going into how we've changed as people. How have you guys changed? Joseph, not just your hair.
I stopped eating meat.
Yeah.
I I have upheaved the car pill. I'm no longer car pill, even though I still drive to work most days. Trying to think what else. I don't know.
We can bounce around and come back to people. I mean, Dayton's vegan now.
I mean, because that was about the time you started going vegetarian. Was that October?
Yeah, it was. Right? Yeah, because it was October 1st that I went vegetarian for the first time. Well,
so we probably recorded episode 1 right before that then.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah, because I wanted to do sober October, but I didn't want to miss out on the Halloween parties. So I was like, yeah, I'll not eat meat for a month and see where that takes me. And look where I am now, malnourished.
Vitamin B12 deficient.
Yeah,
never been stronger. Start falling asleep.
How else have I feel like I've become maybe capable of being more laid back, but also capable of like locking down even harder, maybe. I mean, in terms of fitness, my fitness capabilities increase a lot. I don't think I could run an ultra marathon in college. Not saying that I
You would have tried though.
I probably would have
tried. If someone dared you, you would have tried.
I probably would have. I also think that I've gotten better about that as well. Like people can't do that, and it's like if I really care about it, then I'll probably end up doing it. But if it's like I don't really want to do that, I'll probably tell them to go fuck off or something.
Right.
For me, I remember, episode 1 even, I feel like we're talking about kind of frustration with college, like the college kind of system and how things were set up and, how to get a job and all that. And I feel like now I'm more frustrated with just like America in general. My cynicism and frustration has expanded to the entire country of how things are. And that's just come from being older and learning more and experiencing the world more and seeing kind of how things run in the world. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It definitely makes me sad, here and there. But yeah, I think when I was in college, I just didn't know a lot of things that I know now, naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's hard to like nail down on any one thing because I do feel like it was kind of a different person when we started recording. I didn't exercise at all. I had completely more color in my hair. Had different outlook on life and different stuff. I don't know. It's hard to just pick one thing.
Yeah. We got time. You can go down the list. Give me every single thing that's different now.
Every single thing. All right, let me. Yeah, it's gonna be a long podcast.
Well, I got this mole on my back.
Yeah. You see this? Yeah, I mean, physically for sure. I think mentally a lot. I have a lot more understanding of like who I am as a person. Like kind of more. Maybe not so much where do I see myself in 5 years, but I have a lot more self-awareness of like who I am, like my tendencies, like strengths and weaknesses, and more self-reassured slowly but surely. Yeah, I think too, like I've also seen a lot more of the world in the last 5 years than I ever have in the first 20. I mean, that's also physically, being able to have a little bit more money to be able to travel places, but also just kind of what you were saying, experience more of the world in another way. And as you kind of transition out of college and into like work life, there's a lot of discoveries about yourself and about the world and what you want about it. And I don't know, it's cool that a good portion of that did get recorded, kind of going back to the time capsule thing. But yeah, I think there's just so many things, but it's cool that we still the thing that stayed the same was we all still chatted about it. Still got along, and maybe we all have different goals, but we still get to talk and hang out, and that's so cool.
Yeah, it's funny you bringing up the working out things. I feel like I'm probably in the worst shape I've been in the last 5 years, trying to remedy that. But my body's been breaking down left and right, especially like a couple years ago. with my acid reflux. Just like
I think I
random
remember
shit happening.
talking to Dayton about wanting to start to lift before a podcast episode.
Oh yeah, I think I
or-
kind of remember that too. Actually,
remember me,
now.
I came back from a spring break or something. I was like, I want to lift weights. Can you show me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Also going off what you said, Gabe, I feel more like myself now than I did in college. And that just comes from knowing yourself more from time and also like therapy and stuff. So I'm very thankful for that I feel a little bit more confident. I've been not feeling super confident lately, but I'm more confident about knowing who I am now and kind of what I'm good at and not good at, what I like and dislike. And along with that, I feel like I'm better now about facing my fears than I was in college. Like I feel like back then I was kind of running away from a lot of things, not even consciously, just avoiding uncertainty and avoiding things that could be painful. And I'm definitely not fully fixed that, but I think I'm better about knowing when I'm doing that and being like, all right, I need to actually like do this thing or, you know, take this measure to help improve the situation. So yeah, and that's, I don't know. It seems so obvious that yeah, as you grew up, you get better at
Learn
being
more about
yourself.
yourself.
It gets a little bit easier in some ways, but
Yeah.
it is kind of wild. And I wonder if we'd cringe going back and listening to like the first 30 episodes of the
I think we
podcast.
definitely would.
I don't know
I do
how
just-
much would be cringe, you know.
I do just on the audio standpoint.
I mean, I bet even like 5 years from now, if you were to listen back on this episode, maybe you'd feel the same way. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard, you know, if you aren't like a little cringy about your past, like you probably aren't growing. So
Yeah.
you know, probably for the best.
Oh, one of my favorite things that I wouldn't say I learned, but things that I did that were podcast related were like the birthday projects that I made.
Oh yeah.
Those were always really fun. Again, really time consuming.
I tell you what, nothing gave me more anxiety in the late fall, early winter than that. That was always like, shit, I got to be more careful about what I'm saying, and then the heat of talking about it, I say some dumb shit, and I see the fire in your eyes when I fucking say it.
Yeah, looking over at the screen and seeing him scribble down a timestamp.
Yeah.
Never a good feeling.
Yeah. No, those are always great. I always feel bad because it was so much work on your end for like a minute. And it's like, listen to it. It's like, oh yeah, that was good. And then I'll move on with my day. It's like, you know, I feel bad in retrospect. I should listen to it more than like once or twice.
You don't listen to yours every day.
Yeah, wake up in the morning.
Yeah, it's like your alarm clock.
That's my alarm clock. It's just all the cringy shit I've said.
Like the underwear
Just-
comment. like the Spider-Man, like, you know, when Spider-Man's suit is all ripped up. That's my
Spider-Man
underwear.
Classic.
Uh,
Oh my god.
that's awesome.
Joseph, do you think of anything else that you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm pretty sure I'm like the exact same person
Mm,
when I was a senior.
there you go. Some things never change, just
Yep.
like Joseph. All right. Well, I mean, that was a run and show I had. Is there any other final things before we do some last chance topics? Anything sentimental? Anything wants to cry about? All right.
Not yet.
Dry eyes in here, man.
Too busy crying.
So we have a little bit of time left. So one thing I brought up was like any last chance topics we want to go over of like, so you know, last chance to talk about it on the podcast. Joseph, you said a small one you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. The problem with bringing it up is that I feel like maybe this is me being self-conscious. There's assumptions that could be made about me, and it's not true. I'm just gonna say it.
Joseph, this is the last episode of the podcast.
I know, but
it's fine.
Anyway, how long in a relationship with person, and any kind of relationship? I mean, obviously it varies.
He's adding so many precursors to this. I'm getting scared.
Okay. How long in a friendship, I will say. Just
Okay.
like more than casual friendship is too long to tell someone that you have false teeth. And not like full on dentures, but like, or like if you notice that it's like, oh, that's a weird thing that like sometimes when they eat, they have less teeth in their mouth.
Was this a Nathan Fielder thing?
No, this happened to me in college. Like,
Did it?
I was eating lunch with with one of my, I would say classmates, sort of friends that was on the tech hockey team, and he just pulled out like a tooth, and he like looked over at me and like smiled, and I'm like, what the hell?
Dude, that's a great prank. If I had false teeth, I'd do that all the time.
Yeah.
Just like just as you start to get close with them, just like take them out and just hang out and just say nothing.
Yeah, I was so confused when it happened though.
Because I have a extended family member who has like 2, I think, teeth on like, it's basically a retainer that they take out and the teeth come with it. And it's like, so every once in a while we'll be eating a meal and it's like, oh my God, like, why do you look different? And they don't, no one says anything and it's fine, like whatever. But it's like that initial shock of it is like, oh,
I mean,
okay.
I don't think you ever need to tell anybody about it. Like, why do you?
Well, yeah.
I have very serious news to tell you.
Yeah.
I would.
If you don't want to be friends after, I understand.
If it were me, I would probably tell them about 9 to 12 months in.
Okay.
I think.
I don't think I'd ever tell them. I think I would just leave them to fill in the blanks.
I think they'd figure it out.
But you're going to eat with them at some point if they're a close friend. And they're going to see you take it out.
But it's like by you telling them right before you do it, I feel like that's just like unnecessary and weird. It's like,
I agree.
I'm going to eat. I'm going to pop these out. And it's like, look at them. Yeah, they're fake teeth.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Just do it. And then just like don't say anything.
I guess that's assuming you take, because I know some people, depending on fake teeth, you don't necessarily have to take them, but they do. I had a gym teacher in high school, middle school, I don't know. Their like front tooth was fake, and they could just like click it, and it would like
that.
shoot forward a little bit, and he would just be talking to you, and then he'd do that, and it's like, you don't need. That's fine.
All right. Last second topic.
Here's what I was gonna say. I agree. You shouldn't have to tell anybody.
I'm not saying it has to be a discussion.
Yeah.
But like, how long is too long to find out? Or not? I say too long, but like, is there a window where it's like you're comfortable enough with someone? Again, I don't have false.
To me, it's like if I were friends with somebody for like 2 years and I feel like we knew a lot about each other, and then one day they just pull out fake teeth, they wouldn't have had to tell me. I felt a little offended. It's like, oh, like you didn't tell one of your best friends that you got fake teeth? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel offended.
I wouldn't feel a single thing. I would just be like, oh, okay. And then
it's just another thing about you.
And then I wouldn't think about it ever again. It's like if I learned that somebody was like missing a pinky toe, and like I went to the beach with them, and I'd be like, yo, you're missing a toe. And then I'd probably like never even think about it.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it'd be a whole thing.
No, perfect example is Dayton's ass tat. He told me, hey, I have an ass tat. I said, oh, I gotta see it. Took one funny selfie, and I haven't thought about it since just now.
That's a choice. And so it's like, it's a story more so than like, oh yeah, I played hockey in middle school and I lost
I suppose
my canine. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I would like get mad at the person if they didn't tell me. I'd just be like, oh, you didn't tell me, but that's okay. Yeah. But I'm also like, surprised you didn't tell me, but like it's fine, and then be done. Anyway, my last chance.
We're just talking about how you go about with your weird thoughts that you have, and now you're all judging me for my weird thought. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Move along, I guess.
I liked it, Joseph. I liked it. Gabe, did you have one?
I did find my notes. A lot of them are pretty incoherent, but I can. If you have one that's more pertinent, you can go ahead.
Sure. I'm not sure how long this talk will be. I'm just thinking about this lately. I just don't know what's going to happen. So I'm thinking about the movie industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so during COVID, everyone's like, "Oh, theaters are going to die. All the theaters are going to go out of business. It's all going to be digital, right?" And it seemed like for a while that was maybe going to happen. There was like the whole, even before that was like the Movie Pass collapse and all that shit, right? And then I feel like,
about that.
Top Gun Maverick came out and everyone's like, oh, cinema is saved. And like, that was a good moment, but then it kind of like died down again. But then we just had Barbenheimer, right? And we were seeing box office numbers like nobody's business, right? And it's like, okay, now movies are back. But then the writer's strike and the actor's strike just happened. And so I'm just like, what are your guys' predictions for the future of movies? And like, what does it mean for movies to be back? And what does it mean when movies are not back? Like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time trying to predict the future. Not that I should be able to, but like, we're in a very weird spot of like, we're the best it's ever been, but I feel like we're about to get like the worst ever with the strikes, which need to happen. Just massive support to the striking parties. But it's just like, what's going to happen after that,
I don't know. I feel like right now we're getting a lot of movies that were written during COVID come out. So we're getting a lot of that content. But as far as like the theater part of it, I just think theaters realize that they have TVs and streaming and the internet is pretty good these days. They have to make it an experience. Like Oppenheimer's on some film with a very specific projector, and it's like got all these specs that I don't know, that people will make fun of me if I say them wrong. Yes, and like they have dual projectors, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole experience, and you get the big popcorn, the comfy seat. I think it's just like more of an experience than it is like, because at this point, movies come out on streaming services like sooner than it comes out on DVD. So like if you miss it, you wait a few months and then you watch it on your 65-inch TV on your comfy couch, and it's not with, I don't know, at this point, surround sound if you want to. It's just, I think it's more of, you're paying for like to be in that social conversation. Like, yeah, I want to watch Barbie because now I can talk about it. You know, like I think there's some social tax. That I think is what's kind of keeping them around. So I don't see them going away anytime soon, as long as they make it an experience and keep the social tax hostage. People want to watch those, they can talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that for sure. I mean, during COVID, they experimented with going straight to streaming, right? And that was successful for the time, but I think people in general like going to the movies. I have mixed feelings about it because I feel like on the one hand, it can be fun to be in a big theater with people, everyone having the same experience, but at the same time, you can have an annoying person next to you or someone being loud or on their phone, or your seat is like fucked up. It's like there's a lot of pros and cons where it's like, I know in my house it'll be good. But yeah,
I don't think it's going away anytime soon, though. I think it'll stay around forever.
Yeah, I think it's just too much of an experience thing. It is nice to get out of the house and watch a movie and like bigger screen, better sound system than you have, and like I think it definitely depends on the. And when we saw Barbie last weekend or this past weekend, and it was kind of fun being like, I don't know, we dressed up a little bit, and
it was a good crowd too.
Other people, go dress up, someone more all out than others, and like it was just kind of a fun time.
Also, that Ken song fucking slaps. It's been stuck in my head for over a week.
Yep.
Because I'm just Ken. In another world, I'd be a 10. God damn, it slaps so hard, guys.
Plus, Ryan Gosling is a terrible singer.
I don't care. He carried that movie on his fucking back. And I stand by that. Well, anyways.
I guess, so besides the theater thing, like, we're not getting Barbenheimer every weekend, right? And after the strike, it's like, how long is it going to be before we get like another quality movie? I guess I'm also just kind of worried about, are we going to still get good movies, or are things going to be bad for a very long time? And are the studio heads going to fuck people even more with AI shit and stuff like that? I mean, hopefully if the strikes get what they want, that won't happen. But
there's so much backlash, or so much backlog and content to carry people over. I think that's part of the problem. There's a billion things, like there's more TV and movies ever being created now than there ever was before, because, well, I mean, maybe not so much now because of the strikes, but you have every platform and streaming service vying for your attention. I feel like people can wait a few years so that they can have good pay and living conditions.
No, I agree. I just hope that after we're done with it, we don't get just more sequels and franchise movies. I want to see more like original stuff, and I just don't know if we're gonna get that because studios are not making that right now for sure.
I mean, with most things, it's a cycle, right? You're gonna get, I'm sure there's gonna be AI stuff or generative AI in the production and in whatever for a while, and people are gonna see that it doesn't create as good of a product, and
Yeah.
I hope, that then people vote with their wallets and don't watch those. It's the same thing. It's like people don't watch bad movies. I mean, it depends on the kind of bad, right?
I feel
But,
like they did for a while, but it's been nice to see like The Flash and like Shazam 2 like fucking bombed at the box office, and that gives me hope of like, okay, people are not just gonna go see whatever's there.
well, yeah, when there's 12 plus Marvel movies and TV shows coming out in 6 months or whatever,
Yeah.
you can't see them all. Like, I mean, you can, but like that's a huge commitment, and people are gonna make choices, and like it's like anything else. It's a metronome. It's a cycle. It's gonna
I would
bounce.
almost argue that we're kind of in a renaissance of like people are just making different shit and like people are watching it. Like I mean, I know Asteroid City isn't his first movie, but it was very different and like not like a stereotypical movie. I mean, when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, it was like a completely different animation than anyone has ever seen.
Yeah,
It absolutely did.
Inspired by it, like.
And now, yeah,
afterwards.
there's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's the Puss in Boots movies that are like taking notes. You got Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was like an indie movie that just absolutely exploded. Like Barbie's a weird fucking movie, and it's killing. Like I love that there's like movies that are like taking the fact that it is a movie and making it fun, like and making it like they're not taking it seriously. So
Yeah,
I don't think
A24 is doing really well with that, and they're getting bigger, and they're the only non-struck production company because they're actually like following what the actors and writers need.
Right. I just don't think that like one. I do think like they're gonna argue that they should, and rightfully so. AI shouldn't be able to write that to protect their jobs, like artificially, like artificially like maintain their jobs, but also you get shit that's weird like that an AI doesn't have enough data to make something that unique off of, because AI trains itself off of data sets of a million fucking generic action movies. It's not gonna make Everything Everywhere All at Once because that's just some fucking wacky ass concept and someone thought it was funny. Like, oh, let's make them rocks and then make it emotional, and then you're gonna be crying when two rocks with no dialogue are talking. Like,
and the villain's an everything bagel.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't think that's gonna go away anytime soon. Like there's some fucking weird humans, and they have very distinct styles.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm trying to be hopeful. I also just know there's a lot of annoying people out there that are like, Oppenheimer should have glorified America more, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But that's a discussion for another day.
I mean, everyone's mad at. Well, I say everyone. A bunch of people are mad about the Barbie movie too, because of its political messages. So.
Oh, they're so men hating. It's like fucking go cry in a corner. All right,
Dude, the scene when Ryan Gosling discovers that men rule the world in the real world was one of the funniest things I've watched all year. Just like at first I thought horses ruled the world, and then I found out it was men.
If you haven't seen the Barbie movie, go see it. It's one of the funniest movies.
Fantastic.
Of the year. It's incredible. Gabe, what do you want to close that with?
I mean, this could be fitting. I have pipe dreams, talents that we wish that we had. That is
oh man.
That's the entire note.
That's a good one.
Or I could do things we learned way too late. For example, one of my friends just learned that weather goes from west to east in the northern hemisphere. So
Dude, I got a list of shit that Alyssa has said.
I mean, I do too. I have plenty of things like that. You're like, oh yeah, that's so stupid. How did I not fucking know that? But I'm like blanking on them because the reason I wrote that down is because I had a very similar experience. I'm just blanking on what it was.
But you should pull up Alyssa's list, Joseph. If She'd
You've
probably be
all
okay
this.
with you saying it. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah, she's
it's pretty funny.
And if not, it's the last episode.
Exactly.
She had never heard of berry pies. So like always had like lemon meringue or like banana cream, but never like a cherry
Boysenberry.
pie. Huh?
Or like boysenberry or blackberry pie.
Yeah, nothing. Like she's like, you can do that? And I was like, what are you talking about? That's
Like you said one recently that
oh my god, the funniest fucking thing. Which like isn't completely wrong, I suppose. But you know, in the summertime when the heat's just beating down on you, and you hear the cicadas calling up, it's like that stereotypical sound, like in movies, like high noon, sun's out, whatever. She thought that was the sun making that noise.
Like the Rick and Morty bit where the sun's like when it rises.
Literally. She's like, I'm like, oh yeah, cicadas out, and she goes, what? I'm like, that's the cicadas singing, and she's like, oh,
no, it's the sound of summer.
This
yeah.
this is who is educating us.
Yeah, but she's not like,
Not on cicadas.
yeah, she's not teaching.
She's not
bug
teaching earth
biology.
science, you know.
Yeah, so it's fine.
It's fun.
Oh, I remember what triggered mine. It's kind of boring, but kind of funny. I just finished paying off my car, and in Michigan, the person who you like have the loan out to holds the title for you. And I thought that's how it worked in Minnesota, but that's not the case. And I just never got my title.
Oh.
So I had to like read through all the fucking like DMV articles and then like figure out how to get a new title. So hopefully I can get one soon. But that's what triggered the thought was like, how the fuck did I not know this? Because I should have had it like 4 years ago when I bought the car.
I can't think of any that. I'm sure I know I've had them because I'm not street smart at all. But the pipe dream one made me think of just like any instrument. Like if I could just snap my fingers and learn guitar or bass or drums, like any kind of band instrument, I would totally do that. But I'm not gonna put in the work because I will give up for sure.
I think for
Yeah,
me, it's just languages,
Mm.
especially when you go overseas to a place that doesn't speak English, and you're like, oh, this person literally just flipped between 4 different languages and they didn't even bat an eye. And it's like, that is just such an English speaking privilege that hardly any
Yeah,
English speakers
You speak the most popular language in the world, or one of them, so they can cater to you.
Right. And I mean, now that I'm, relearning German, it's, if you're not immersed in it, it doesn't come too quickly.
No.
And you probably lose it super fast if you're not using it like often.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Are you using like Duolingo?
Yeah, I've tried a few other apps and everything. And because I just got back from Isle Royal, I lost my Duolingo streak of like 250 days or something like that. So now I'm like, well, now's the time to shop around, see what else I can find. No commitment to the streak.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've thought about trying to learn Japanese, just mainly for song lyrics, because I listen to so much Japanese music now and I have no idea what the fuck they're saying. It'd be kind of nice, but I don't think I'm gonna put in the time for that, at least not right now.
I think most of the pipe dreams I had in mind were just because, I mean, I think some of these things like people do have some natural talent for, but it was also a work ethic thing maybe. But a lot of like creative pursuits, I always like see people create something like which seems quite naturally, which again, I'm sure they practice and hone those skills way more than I even think about. But like just seeing like stuff, people really easily come into like music or art or something like that and just be able to like envision something that like I can't even fathom and then be able to like put pen to paper, so to speak. I always have like a massive respect for. And then also like professional athletes, I think are it's just fucking crazy to see like the level that they're at, because it's just like, even for example, like, I play soccer, I'm okay at it, but then you watch like professional soccer players and it's just like there's so many, like, we're playing the same game somehow, but they're on another fucking planet and they're playing these other people that are just at the absolute peak, and it's really fun to watch, but it's also just like, man, how the hell did you get there,
Yeah.
And some of it, again, is probably some natural innate talent to, like, I don't know, it comes easy to them, and those are the people who stick around. But also, like the drive and like the focus. We've talked about it on many podcasts where, like, I'm not one to have like one thing where I'm like, ooh, this is my this is why I'm here,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for people who are that way and can put all their time and effort into like perfecting that one thing.
Yeah.
So that'd be a pipe dream.
I don't think about sports as much as I did in high school when I was in them. But whenever they kind of come up and I think about it a little more, I think similarly. And actually, I just watched this really fucking fantastic anime called Ping Pong the Animation, about some high school ping pong players. And it kind of goes into that game where, like, they say in that show, and I imagine it's true, but like ping pong specifically is like 80 or 90% natural talent. Because and when you get to high levels, it's just like reaction time has to be absolutely insane.
Right.
So it's like these 5 different athletes coming to grips with the fact that they may or may not have the stuff. And it's really fascinating and a cool like conversation on that. So yeah, athlete stuff is super interesting.
Yeah, I think what triggered it for me is there's been this advent on Netflix of documentaries for like sports, and they're usually like the high society sports. So there's like the Formula One that just exploded.
Yep.
It's super fascinating to see someone drive over 200 miles an hour and be able to react and think and talk and like do all these different things at the same time, and still like fight for like fractions of a second. Like, oh, I lost 100th on that corner, like I can fix it with it, like the level that they have to be at. And there's also like a Tour de France one, which before I was like, yeah, I like bikes, but they just go fast. It's fucking nuts, like how much effort and like how fit those fucking people
I can't believe
are.
the Tour de France is an actual thing. Like it's insane.
The average speed's like stupid. It's like the fastest I've ever been on a bike, and that's just their average. And then they're going up mountain passes day in, day out, like it's fucking nothing.
Like they have to all still be doping, right? Like I just don't understand.
They say they aren't. I don't know.
They're doing something.
The one guy got tested like 4 times this year because his times were just too good. He failed it. Oh, he passed every time. So either they found a way around it or they are that good. I don't know. But just like that's a combination of science too, right? Like,
yeah,
the machines for both of those respective sports are better than they've ever been, because you've had years to develop it, and the science for conditioning and all that stuff. But holy shit, how do you do that? I want to do that. I just don't want to do any of the work.
I want to be a third string kicker on a football team where I get millions of dollars and don't have to do jack
shit.
Dude,
that's the other thing. Like, don't get me wrong, like it is a lot of work, but if you're like a professional hockey, soccer player, whatever, football, like, yeah, you fuck up your body a little bit. You play till you're like in your mid-30s tops. You retire and then you just like use that money to like invest, and like if you use your money correctly, you can live off that forever. And the whole time you're just like literally playing a game. And if you're a competitor, like you're gonna enjoy the hell out of it, which all of them generally are. Man, that sounds like a good life.
There you go. All right. Anything else? Anything people need to get off their chest? I'm gonna end it otherwise.
Just abruptly. That was the end of it,
right? No, well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode and for listening to our podcast in general. We really appreciate everyone. If you want to stay in touch with us, I'm going to put all of our Instagram handles in the description. Be a good way to kind of keep in touch. I'll still be online doing stuff. And who knows, maybe there'll be another podcast on one of these other jabroni starts at some point. But yeah, you can follow us there. Shoot us a message if you want. We may or may not reply, but you never know. And
Depends
yeah.
how much we like you.
exactly.
50-50, really.
So yeah, thank you so much for 5 years. And we will not see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Peace.